I am now. All right. So I will record this and then I will send that out so that you have it as reference. Thanks so much for the reminder. I'm typically try to do that. All right. So first, I'm going to click into monitor. So monitor is the ability to monitor active registration as it's happening. So we can look in and see how many students do I have enrolled in a particular course or section on this particular day. So again, this replaces what were those gigantic snapshot reports where you were looking at what enrollment was. Now, this is interesting because I think this just updated within the last few minutes because I was in here earlier and it was from yesterday's date. So what this is going to show us is, first and foremost, I have selected the spring term because I don't think your registration for fall 21 has started yet. So I wanted you to be able to see what was happening here for your spring term. You can filter a lot of different ways. So if you want to look at a particular campus, you're going to be able to see the different campuses that are available here and filter there. You also have the ability to create some filters on your own. If you just wanted to come in and filter by a subject or a campus or a course number or what your fill rate was, you can create filters that are unique for you. And I can help you create those, or you could create them on your own. But you can create these filters to remove any noise, so you don't have to page through or look for particular courses. You can really very quickly filter down to what it is that you're looking for. All right. Also here, I mentioned this timestamp. So Ad Astra is updating your information on a daily basis. So we ingest overnight. So when you log in, as of this morning at 8:53 Central Time, so about 20 minutes ago, this is your current enrollment information for spring of 21. So every day that you log in here, you're going to be able to see that. You also have next to that timestamp a find panel. So if we were just going to look for a particular course, you could just type in that course and it would pop up. Okay. You could search by just a subject prefix. So I did a biology here, but you can see the biology is also capturing because we have the ability to sort by title. So it's also, you're going to have multiple different ways to create that feature here. We also have some sorting capability. So what I want to show you here is looking at this just top line. Yep, that's what I wanted. Let's look at the ACG 2071. So what this tells me is that this course, Principles of Managerial Accounting for the Spring 21 term, off-campus Tampa, that it is 77% filled. And when we talk about a fill rate or an enrollment ratio, we're looking at what you set that max capacity at for all your different sections added together. So a max capacity for the course against how many students you actually have enrolled. So this particular course at off-campus Tampa is 77% filled. When Ad Astra first started, that's when Monitor first rolled out, that's all it showed was 77%. Well, as you can imagine, if you have one max capacity set at 1 and 1 student enrolled, it's 100% filled. That's really not that interesting, right? It's not that telling. So what we did is we added in this second line here. So now we can see for this particular course, there are 283 students enrolled out of 369 max capacity for the total seats that were originally out there and available in 10 different sections. That got a lot better. But then we got some feedback and we said, all right, let's break down this math, make it very easy for me here. If you have 2 sections of 25, right? So you have total of 50 seats available and you have 25 students enrolled. Well, that's going to be a 50% fill rate and 25 students enrolled out of 50 seats available. Interesting, but it doesn't tell me if all of those 25 students are enrolled in one section or if they're spread out over the two. And that's where the section bubbles were born here. So what you'll see over here is that each one of these bubbles represent a particular section. If the section or if the bubble is filled in, it means it's filled greater than 85%. If the section bubble is empty, it's filled less than 25%. And if it's partially filled in, it's in the middle. And you can hover over each one of those section bubbles to see further information about it. And we're going to go down a little bit further here. So let's just go ahead and click into this particular course. Actually, I lied. Let's first talk one more thing here about this Notify Me bell. So if you know, Melissa wants to keep an eye on an undergraduate business course, and we want to look at this and say, hey, I know this course is going to get really filled, but I don't want to open up any sections yet. We're really just wanting to keep an eye on it, but I want to be notified if something happens with that particular course. You have the ability to click on this Notify Me bell. And what's going to happen is the system is going to send you notifications automatically if anything significant happens with that course. So if it reaches that 85% threshold or 100% filled, or maybe if it drops below those thresholds because you've added some seats or you've added a section, you're going to get notifications. And those notifications are going to show up here in the upper right-hand corner. You can see I've been following one of your accounting courses, and it shows up like an app on your smartphone where you have some notifications here, and you can see all of those, and they're a link that will take you to that particular course for whatever it is that you're following. Now, let's say you're not living in the Ad Astra app on a regular basis, where you're in it like I am every day, every hour. What happens is if you have any unread notifications after an hour, the system's going to send you an email prompting you to log in because there's something important that you might want to see. Go ahead and stop notifying myself about this. And let's drill into this course so that you can see all the further level data that you have within Monitor before we transition over to Analyze and then Align. So here at the top, you're going to see a registration status. Sometimes you might see an up arrow in high and a down arrow in low, and then obviously a check mark that says on track. This is not a recommendation to add or remove or that you're spot on. That is simply looking at that registration status. Remember, I said that the 85%, if it's above that, it's going to read as high. 25%, it's going to read as low. We can see when the overall term starts at the campus based upon what you have entered in Banner, and we can see which campus it is. So as we have been tracking your courses on a daily basis, we can see as you get closer and closer to the start date of the term, or even right after the start of the term, how you have progressed up against the seats that you are offering. So the gray is the seats that you're offering and the blue is the enrollment. We also give you a look here on enrollment ratio. So we can see how your enrollment ratio has been progressing as it has gotten closer and closer to that 85% threshold. You'll find Ad Astra uses that 85% and 25% pretty consistently. I can also see all your 10 sections down here. I can see where the unused seats are and where the students are enrolled. We're going to get a little bit further on section level information here in just a bit. And I'm really excited about this particular graph. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit here. So this historical enrollment progression, as we move forward in the new platform, what's going to happen is we're going to create a new line for each new like term. So that in spring of 22, you're going to be able to look back at day 28 or 28 days out from the start of your term and see where you were this time last year on enrollment. So are we really over enrolled? Are we seeing a surge in a particular course, or are we maybe a little behind where we were and how that can help drive us. I can also send messages here. So if I wanted to send a message that says, hey, this is getting pretty filled, should we maybe look at adding a section? Or, hey, Billy Joe, maybe you want to keep an eye on this. You can actually send a message through, and that message is going to show up in the bottom here once it sends through. So you can see I made this note in Monitor. I put a test note down here. I'm also going to have another notification up here at the top. But that note is going to retain with that course, regardless of if you're in Align or Monitor, and it's going to retain with that course for that term. So I have some clients that are really using this to help eliminate some of that email back and forth. I promised I was going to show you a little bit further section level detail. So now you can start to see all of the sections where it's not just looking at enrollment numbers in the section code. We can see what part of term, if it's full term, or if you have some, shortened 8-week terms. We can see the meeting times and days, if some of them are synchronous, who the instructor is. Again, this is off campus, but if you have buildings or rooms that are being used, you're going to be able to see further section level detail that we're pulling from Banner. So I'm going to go back to the main page here. We have a lot of data in USF, so it takes just a little bit of time to load. And this is the Courses tab, but I also want to show you the Analyze tab. So Courses is looking at the data by course, by campus, right? So you could drill into that very specific information. The Analyze tab is meant to give us a view institutionally, so that we can come in and look at this. We're about 11 days out from the start date of your term. We could see what overall enrollment ratio was, and we can see all of your different courses listed down here. Now that's a lot to look at. There is a toggle bar down here at the bottom that we can shrink it, and it will then adjust to just those courses. Again, I mentioned that 85% and 25% threshold are used pretty consistently. Any course that is in a yellow is going to be below that 25% threshold. Red above 85%, and blue in the middle.
So Christine, if you were applied a filter, it's the same filter is going to carry over.
Great question.
Analyze?
Great question. I'm glad you brought that up, Billy Joe. So if you have built your filter, so in Analyze, the only filtering capabilities that we have here is subject. So because this is meant to look at it institutionally, you don't have the ability yet to drill this down by campus, although that has been an ask that we have made of our developers, or by individual course. So it kind of depends on what filters you built in the in the Courses tab. If you built one that said, hey, I want a filter with ABC 1, 2, 3 and XYZ 1, 2, 3, this can't get down to that 1, 2, 3 level. But if you had built a filter that said, I would like subject ABC and subject XYZ, that filter would work over here. So subject is the only filtering capability over here. So if I want to go to an ACG, I just picked that one as that was the first one I saw, then this data would update to just those particular courses, and we could see those here. And we could see that fill rate. And we could do multiple subjects. So if I wanted to do ACG and BIO, we could absolutely do multiple subjects, but that's the way that we could filter on this particular page.
Okay.
And speaking of here, I'm just going to leave this filter on. We wanted to call out it very easily if there is any courses, again, overall courses. This is not looking by campus. This is not looking by section. This is telling me there is not another seat of ACG 4123 on your campus for spring 21. In fact, it's overfilled, it looks like, by a student. So that becomes particularly poignant when you're looking at, especially early on in registration, or on some of those really important general education courses that are prerequisites, or are popular courses for transfer students, or if you still have orientations coming up and a lot of new students are going to need those courses, you can see at a glance here, hey, where do I need to add some seats? Because if the students really need to get into those, you know, if we don't have another seat on campus, that's going to be important to know. We also filter, and I see there's a question, I will come back to that. Over here on the right-hand side, we call out any courses that have less than or equal to 10 students enrolled. So we want to also call out where there might be some lower enrolled numbers here. So we'll plot it on this map. It may be that you have one seat available and one student enrolled. It's going to show up on the map, but it's going to show up here above this 50% line in blue, and it's going to be up here at the top at 100%. So on this particular page, it is just the ability to filter by subject, but we have one of the new apps. So Billy Joe had asked about filtering, and I know there's been some questions about filtering. One of the new apps is Report, and we could get pretty granular there. So if we have a college or department or a course numbering that we want to look at, there are multiple different ways to be able to filter within those reports too. But from a visual standpoint, then we're just going to be looking at the subject on this particular page. Okay. I'm going to get ready to transition over to Align. So Monitor, again, is a little reactive, right? Because it's after registration has started. There are no recommendations in Monitor. It is simply showing you the data that is in your system from an enrollment perspective. Everything that I'm going through today, this little guy down in the right-hand corner, we lovingly call him Astrobot. There are a few different guides that are here that you can certainly use as resources. Again, some additional guides here on how to, suggestions how to use some of these. On the middle tab, there is also the availability for you to report an issue or to give some general feedback or a request a feature. You can send that and that will go straight to our team. And he's going to live in basically every page, every main page of the apps. Okay. So we talked about being a little reactive.
Christine, can you, Erin had her hand up.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Erin, I didn't see that. You have a question?
I do, and probably better I ask before we go on. So, and I'm actually going back to, well, actually the view you're in now, the courses, rather than the analyze part of Monitor. I just want to make sure that I have a full understanding. So I'll say first, I love the look of the new platform. This is great.
Great.
So when we look at this, and let's use ACG 2021 as the example since it's right in front of us, each of those is divvied out, right, based on term and then the campus offering. So we see it listed for off-campus Tampa, off-campus Sarasota Manatee, off-campus St. Pete, and then St. Pete itself. Mm-hmm. We drill down into those as you illustrated to us what that all looks like. I just want to clarify or confirm, I guess, that the data that's represented when we drill down is for that specific pairing, that course and yes. That campus.
Yes.
Historical. It's not it's not it's not all ACG 2021. It's specifically that breakdown of that course and that campus.
You are absolutely correct. On this page, what you're looking at is by course, by campus. Now, we may choose, so you can see we have a couple of different campuses down here, because we have chosen to create some campus groups. So for instance, Sarasota Manatee has the Sarasota, well, actually, let me use St. Pete because that's what I'm looking at here. So off-campus St. Pete has that particular course campus combination. The regular St. Pete has that campus combination. You may choose to create an overall St. Pete course group. And so it would basically, St. Pete would show up 3 times because you would have this St. Petersburg, you would have the off-campus St. Petersburg, and then you could have a combined St. Petersburg that would show you that there are 3 sections available and that there are 105 students enrolled, because it would be looking at it combined. So we have the ability and functionality to do that here. But yes, it breaks it out by course, by campus, but we have the ability to combine some campuses should you like to see that.
All right, that's cool. So I have 2 follow-ups then. So yeah. That we can do that. Is that on the user end? The user end can, and like on our end, we could actually sit and combine what we want, or is that a request that we would have to make that you would do on the back end for us?
Great question. You can do that, or you can request it. You do have the ability. I always think it's good to have a combination, because one thing to note, campus groups are going to show up under every user ID. So it's going to be built into the system. So if you have 50 different campuses, we just have to be really intentional about training on make sure you're looking at which campus or campus group that you're using. Whereas filters, if I build a filter for just, ACG and biology, I don't know why I would do that combination, but if I did, it would only show up under my user ID unless I shared it with you, Erin. So that way it doesn't create too much noise for people that really like to use the filters. But the campus groupings you can do, and it would show up under everybody's.
Okay, that's important to know, because
Right.
my brain was already going down all the different ways that we might.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Christine, it looks like we have Tampa. Is Tampa already have the combined functionality?
I had already done that one.
So
based upon work that we had done quite a bit ago. It's here under your settings.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Good campus
because
groups.
that's going to be important for people, so they're not like thinking there's duplicates.
Yeah, no. So Tampa combined is already in there. And if we decide to get rid of that, I can easily open a ticket and remove it.
No, so Billy Joe, I don't know if you want opinions right now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. So I think looking at campus combined is a good thing, right? But now that we are consolidated, I think there could be other things we want, but having a combined that looks at all the off campuses together so that we can see what's predominantly online would be a nice combination too. So because there is a somewhat of a different audience, right, for face-to-face and online, but if we can look holistically at the online piece together too, that's helpful. And my other follow-up question, sorry, was that when you do the combine, then when you drill down, all of that projection, or history is based on that particular combination. So it resets itself based on what's included. Okay, thank you.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
So Christine, I want to make sure that we start to capture some of these questions, but I also want to be, and Erin, please, this is no reflection on you answering a question. I'm glad we're all asking questions as we go. But based on our time, should we just start jotting these down, and then we'll make a decision maybe at our next meeting? So everybody on the call be thinking about what kind of combinations that we would want. And then we can maybe make that as our kind of our first agenda item when we meet again.
No, absolutely. And I made note of that as well. And Billy Joe is smart for me, because I can go down a rabbit hole on this, and Billy Joe knows me well enough. That she knows that I get really excited. So I'm loving that you all are liking the look of this. We feel the same way. So, okay.
So it looks like Lisa, we'll take one more question on this, because we've got to get to all of them.
Can you drill down in the combined to look at on campus versus off campus? Yeah, absolutely. So if I selected a combined here campus, so each one, once you drill in, if you know what your section numbers are, it's going to be pulling all 22 of those sections. And when you get into the section level data, you're going to see that there's some under each one of those. So you're going to be able to see the breakdown of that. So yes, you can. Okay. So I'm going to transition over to Align. So again, monitor reactive. That's looking at really quick, hey, let me pop in and look at this course, or let me look at this grouping. Now let's talk about planning. So you can see I've been playing around here in this today, but a few things that I want to point out. So let me get rid of some of these filters that I have available. You do have quick filters available here. The same, they'll transition from, or they'll transfer from monitor to Align. It just depends upon what you have filtered on. I will say in this particular area in Align, there is a lot more different ways to filter. So you could filter by title if you just want to look at all internships, or something like that. You can filter a lot of different ways. It can get very granular. I'm going to leave it right now on, whoops, I have that and in there. I'm going to leave it on just the term, because that's what I want to look at right now. So I'm looking at your fall 21 roll forward, and I chose to look at this particular term. So Ad Astra has the ability, as you probably know, to create a roll forward. I did this for today's purposes and after talking to Billy Joe, because I wanted to get some data in there for you to be able to see. I have some campuses that have gotten really unique, and they said, hey, Christine, we think fall 21 is going to look more like fall 19. can you use fall 19 as the source term to roll forward from, but we want to keep fall 20 data in there as part of the trend, and that will make sense as we get into individual courses. I was able to do that. For the purposes of this, I basically took a copy of your fall 20 schedule and said, if you do the same thing in fall of 21 that you did in fall 20, here's the recommendations that we're going to make. Now, why that's important and why it's not important, if you do have any heartache about that, because I realized that we got a little sideways, right, in fall of 20. So it at least gives us a shell to make the recommendation. So this needed column is going to be not changing. It's always going to be here, we need this many sections, we need this many seats, based upon what the data is telling us, regardless of which we're saying that you're offered. The offered is what is being driven by, the offered is what is being driven by the roll forward. So we're currently using a roll forward, but the second that you or Billy Joe or anybody tells me, hey, Christine, we've already rolled forward our schedule and banner, and go ahead and point to it, all I have to do is open a ticket and we could point to your actual schedule as opposed to the roll forward. And then since we're looking at your data on a daily basis, we're going to be able to see as you make changes. So if you have 113 sections available of English Comp 1 and you add 2 more, so tomorrow you have 115 sections available, that data is going to be very dynamic as we're pulling it in on a daily basis. So let's go ahead and look, because I was playing around in here today and I was looking at a particular course. All right. So I wanted to break this down so we just have remove some of the noise so that you could see what we're looking at here. So this course, you can see it's showing as a potential addition candidate, because you can see there are 2 sections offered, there are 2 sections needed. But when we drill in further to the data, you're going to see that it's been a course that's been really filled in the past, and we think maybe you should put some eyes on it. Maybe it's not a true addition candidate, but maybe something that you want to look at. You'll see some that are check marks that are no action. You'll see some that are down arrows that are reductions. There's also a new feature in here that you're going to see some might be time change candidates. So Ad Astra has started to investigate how we can provide more data about where courses might be more successfully offered based upon where the majority of your schedule is compressed. And that will make more sense when I get into it here. We do have the ability here to hover over this information button. It tells me when the section level was updated and when predict was updated. We'll talk about the difference between those two. But again, your section import is happening on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. We are running predict 3 times a week. It's a really big data pull, right? So we're going out and capturing all of your student academic history. And since that's probably not changing on a daily basis, we're doing it 3 times a week. So what that means is we're going to pull that data on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday so that you have refreshed data on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So this tells me this particular psychology course is the fall 21 term roll forward. It's at off-campus Tampa. We currently see 2 sections that have 137 seats available. Again, remember this is a roll forward, so that's basically what you offered in fall of 20. The data is suggesting you still only need about 2 sections, about 145 seats. So here you have the ability to use this page as a workflow. So if I said, you know, I think Ad Astra might be right, and that consultant of ours, she's pretty smart. So I think maybe we need to go ahead and add another section here, and I'm going to go ahead and approve that. And maybe I want to notify Christine Stewart that, yep, I think we should add another section there and approve it. And that is going to be a workflow. Let me be very clear, if somebody is probably panicking right now, I did not just add a section to your system. This does not write back to Banner. This is the ability for you to use this as a workflow or a worksheet. I'm working with a four-year institution in Georgia that has really integrated and adopted the status workflow into their process. So they are using this as their system of record, that here is what each step in the line needs to do. Somebody needs to go in and review it. Somebody needs to go in and approve it. And then the scheduler needs to come in and schedule it. So they're using this as a worksheet, again, as opposed to going back and forth with emails or change forms, things like that. Not to say that every client has to use it. It may not work for every client to be able to integrate that, because it might be a bit of a culture change. Some other campuses I work with, they've started using this in one department to try and to use this and to see the success that they have with it, but something to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and put this back so that you all aren't wondering what happened with that particular course. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill into this course and show you the types of data. So again, for those of you that were with me 3 years ago when we were in the blue and white application Platinum Analytics, again, I get very excited about this from the ease of use, because I think it's a little bit simpler to read here. So I can see this particular course from fall 17 to fall 18 to fall 19 to fall 20. So here how is the trend of this particular 4004C course has been trending over the last several like terms. Now, to Erin's point earlier, as she mentioned, this is looking specifically at this campus combination, or course campus combination. So this is looking at off campus, and maybe in fall in 17 and fall of 18, you may be offered more at a seated campus, or maybe it's a newer course and it's now required for more programs. So you can see how that trend has been going. So over here on the right, let's talk about this. Well, I guess I should say up here at the top, this is the same thing you saw on the main page. So there are 3 different lines here, over on the right-hand side. The green line denotes the whoops, I wanted to scroll a little bit, not a lot. Sorry, guys. The green bar represents the historical trend. So Ad Astra is saying from fall 17 to fall 18, 19 to 20, and that trend continues. It's a linear trend. Here's the recommended number of seats we suggest you might have. I'm going to skip the purple bar for a minute, and I'm going to talk about the orange bar. The orange bar is predict. So the way that predict works is, again, we are looking at your student academic history, the specific programs they are enrolled in and what they're tied to in Banner, and what that 4-year plan looks like. So that if I am an accounting student, which if you know anything about me is pretty laughable, I'm an accounting student, and that pathway, that sequential order of courses is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I took 1, 2, 3. I skipped 4 and then went 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ad Astra, predict, is going to say, Christine, you need to take the 4th course. So USF, if I'm a Tampa off-campus student, you need to have a seat available for Christine or a student like Christine that needs to take this course. So we're going to give demand to me for that particular 4th course. Let's say it's this psychology course. Then I would have a seat for that. Now, what we do is a couple of things I want to call out here, and then I want to talk about something that we're doing that we know we're working on for USF. A couple of things, we don't rely solely on predict. Shockingly, students don't always do exactly what we want them to do or tell them to do. So we rely on a combination of historical and predict. And that is what this purple seats needed bar is. So up here, when we're saying needed, this is being driven by the purple bar. Now you can see we have decided for today's purposes that we are going to weight it completely on historical, because I have been working with Billy Joe, and I am aware that some of your pathways are updating, right? So we had the Tampa pathways, we had Sarasota Manatee, we had St. Pete's. So there are some new pathways and some updates. That work, just so you know, and I'm going to show you some pathways here and help explain some of that, but we are what we call re-digitizing your pathways based upon that new catalog year and the consolidated pathways or updated pathways, if you will, that are going to come into play for many of these students. We are also working on being able to maintain catalog years, which the system can do, but we need to make sure that we're able to associate the students by catalog years. So we know that there is a lot of work that is happening within your pathways right now. So I'm weighting this on historical, but all your predict data is still there. And we're going to dig down a little bit further in that here in just a minute. But I want to show you some of the graphs that are still available. And I promise, Stacy, I'm going to do my best to get through this in 10 minutes so we have some time for you to be able to jump into. So again, some just different visuals. You can see seats filled by term, again, 17, 18, 19, 20, just a different view on it. On the right-hand side, this is seats filled by section code. I'm going to be honest, I didn't love this at first. I wasn't sure how I felt about it because this graph on the right is an aggregate of what is on the left. However, I've worked with some campuses and talked to them about their use here. And if you're very intentional about your section naming scheme, this might be really telling to you. I don't know that this is the case, but let's pretend. Let's say 003 tells you something. It's your off-campus, Tampa, your students, but maybe you have this 900 section tells you something else. Maybe it's a one particular site or one particular program. And so you can see the differences in those enrollment because it is aggregating it all up. But if I did just want to look at fall of 20 data, all I have to do is click on fall of 20 on that left-hand graph, and then over here on the right is going to update to just that term. And to get back, you just refresh. All right. And while these graphs load up, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit further because we tried to list out, again, depending upon who the user is and how they like to view some of the data, there's some visuals here, but then we also have a list down below. So I can see, again, all the historical terms, what was offered, what the enrollment was. I'm also going to be able to see all the recommendations for this particular course at Tampa that has happened in spring of 20, spring of 21. It looks like maybe this is a spring course, not a fall course. But I also wanted to show you down here is a couple of things. You can see my notes, right? So you can see that my notes have maintained for this particular course. I'm going to travel over really quickly to sections. So this section list looks just like the section list in Monitor. But you can see we also have a conflict toggle here now. So I mentioned that Ad Astra has really, our niche has been providing the what and the how many. What courses should be offered? How many seats should be offered? We've started to try to provide some insight to help answer the when question. And so what we do is we look at all of those students that are getting predict demand for this 4004C course. And we cross-reference it, a giant algorithm behind the scenes, people far smarter than I am that came up with. And we tried to look at where it is more or less likely that they would have a conflict. So I can see here by this, the shading here, the lighter the blue, the less risk of a conflict, the darker the blue, the more risk of a conflict. So for these particular students, it's more likely that they're going to have a conflict around 12:30 than at 8 in the morning. Shocking, right? So it allows you to think, if I wanted to add a section, where might I add it that it's more likely that they will be able to get it? We also have the ability to look at a full week, right? We only just show the shortened week, but we know there's evening classes or weekend classes, etc. We can toggle over to requirements only, which we'll spend a little bit more time talking about in future meetings that are absolute requirements. We can also filter this by a particular pathway or a program. It looks like it's mostly just the psychology. So let's keep moving along to students. So in that orange predict bar, who are the students that are getting demand here? I've actually selected a particular student type. Let me get rid of him for a minute. So we can see that we have about 80 current students that were enrolled in spring of 21 that we want to account for within our current student load. But we also have the ability to simulate new, transfer, returning, departing students based upon how enrollment trends have played over the last several like terms. So all your student data is still there, but you might want to consider there might be some simulated ones too. So let's go ahead and dig into a particular student, Rachel, who is a student in psychology. That's obviously the only pathway that has been included here. And now we're going to see, I'm going to scroll to the top, that BA psychology pathway. This is why it's really important that we have good pathways for you, because we can see either she has not completed a particular course or she has completed a course, and you can see what is applying. I can see her entire student history. So I can see that in some of these courses, the grade did not meet the requirement that we've seen. Maybe there's a course that just isn't on a student pathway. Sometimes developmental courses or supplemental courses may not be in an actual pathway. If they change majors, that might happen. We can see Rachel struggled a little bit with her English courses. Whoops, I'm sorry. I didn't want to leave the students tab. Let me go back into her. Sorry about that. And then we also have that ability on the left-hand side to look at a schedule. So looking at Rachel's specific courses that she is being recommended to take, where is it more or less likely that she would have a conflict based upon when your courses are scheduled? Now, one thing I do want to call out, this heat map is only looking at your seated courses that have a time assigned to them. So if it says, hey, you know, this course is Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday at 9:15 to 10:30, then that course is going to be included in the heat of the heat map. An online section is not actually going to be included in the heat of the heat map because in theory that shouldn't cause conflict because the student can take that asynchronously at any time.
Christine, how does that work if we have both options on a course? For this, they could do a face-to-face or an online.
So in this, they were running Predict for me earlier, so I wasn't able to get, I think it's going through a refresh of Predict right now. But what I want to show you with that is you have the ability here, it will pop up that you're going to be able to see all the different sections of a course that are offered. It may only be, oh, look, there we go. So we can see that there are also 83 students that are getting demand for this Psych 3204. You can see 2 of 13 sections are scheduled at this time. What that means is that there are 11 other sections that the student could take besides those 2. So if they're in this 4004C course, they obviously can't take the 2 sections of 3204 that are offered at the same time or overlapping in some way, shape, or form. But there are 11 other sections for them to take. So those online courses would also be included in that 11. While they don't apply to the heat of the heat map, they are listed here as another option that the students would be able to complete. Did that help answer your question, Billy Joe?
I think I would ask if anybody else, I mean, you all are closer to this. I just had that thought. I thought, was it going to put her, if there were other options, did it show up on the heat map?
It will, but yeah. I can see that there are other options for, and this is looking at overall students. This isn't looking at just Rachel, but yes, you would be able to see, it would show up on the heat only if it was seated, but it would show all the other options that are available, including online.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. So I'm going to go back to this course because I did want to roll through that pretty quickly, and I promised to give some time here. But what I want to just briefly talk about is 3 different apps here, and I'm just going to give a really quick 2-minute teaser on each one of these. So the Pathways app is the same look and feel, the ease of being able to enter new pathways, to resequence your pathways, to make sure that your course groups are updated. and that, maybe you added a new drawing class that's now an art elective. We can pop it in there really quickly. So we're able to have some visibility to these pathways and to see all the sequencing, all the course groups, what pathways those courses and course groups are offered in. We can see that in the Pathways app. In Report, this is some of the visualizations. It opens in a new app, but there is a list of multiple different reports over here on the left-hand side that we have provided for you to have some visualizations. So I know there might have been a question that was sent over to me about looking at department codes and things like that. Yes, we can build some of those and build some of that filters. We also have some ability to do some reporting on parts of term here. And last but not least, this enrollment app was just released this week. And it is out there in live. So this allows us the ability to see a little bit more of, hey, if we're looking at the psychology program and it says there are 78 students in the BA of psychology, we have the ability to drill into that and to see who those students are, so that you have that really a good list of, here are the students that we are showing enrolled in that program. It allows us the ability to do some spot checking, right? Some fact checking for us and for you, and to continue to get the data cleaner and cleaner. I've always said that the iterations that we get cleaner and cleaner. Now with this new platform, we really have some great visibility into some resources and some tools to help us make this as useful as possible. So I'm going to pause because, again, I'm going to get ready to turn it over to Stacy here in just a minute, and I want to talk briefly about next steps for us. So I am going to work with Billy Joe and figure out, do we set up a recurring meeting? What are the goals? What are the first few things out of the gate that you want to get in and get your hands on, playing around with it? I know Erin well enough. She's itching. She's probably already got a list for me, of things that she wants to do. So what do you want to get in to do? What is your pain point? What do we want to solve for first? So we'll figure out what that is and make sure we're focusing on that. So I'll work with Billy Joe on that piece, because I have said this time and time again. My colleagues have heard me say it. I will continue to. My most important goal is to not add something else on your to-do list to put a check in the box. I want this to make work that you have to do easier and more efficient for you to help the students graduate. So that's really what this is about. I work at a school in Pennsylvania, and he said, Christine, I used to do this and it would take me like 8 to 10 minutes a course to even look at combining some of the recommendations or looking at some of the historical things. And now I can do it in about 90 seconds per each course. And I look at about 50 courses. So you saved me an immense amount of time on doing this on a weekly basis. That was my win for that week. So whatever I can do to help you in that realm is what we really want to focus on for this. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Stacy, because we've really been wanting to look at how we can make this the most successful for University of South Florida, and to really get some good wins out of this and how we can best help you. And there were some ideas that that had come up, obviously getting you in the new platform and thinking about how you can use it. But I know Stacy had some things that she wanted to share with this particular group as well. So Stacy, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Thanks for all the questions. Before I move on, we do have plenty of time. We've got about 28 minutes left. Is there any other questions in regards to what Christine has shared with you? I know she shared a lot of information. So if there is, please let me know.
Yeah, if anybody has anything, raise your hand. I understand seeing this for the first time, you kind of have to let it set maybe a little bit. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Okay, Stacy, it looks like for now we're good.
We're good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in planning for this relaunch of this project, Billy Joe and Christine and I were talking about how we can make it a more successful partnership. And as you can see, we've done and invested a lot in revamping Platinum Analytics into these apps to make them much more user friendly, and just the technology is just easier to use. But that's not everything to a project like this. As you can see from just what Christine has shared with you, the success of this really is highly dependent on a successful scheduling team that you've put together, which requires a lot of collaboration. And really what we want to give you is a framework to be able to go in and plan and get ahead, to be able to meet the promises that you have given to your students. And that a lot of that is dependent on a successful schedule that meets the needs of your students. But you also have to care for the financial sustainability of your institution, and making sure that you're making wise decisions about your programs and what you're offering, again, to be good stewards of your finances within the university. One of the things that we have created and launched this year to help our partners be successful in this is what we call an academic enterprise. So one of the resources that I'm going to follow up with you today is access to what we're calling our academic planning resource page. And there's just a wealth of information from your colleagues, other peers, articles and studies that we have produced, all around, again, this giving you the ability to be successful in the work that we're going to be engaging with together. The other thing that we want to do in support of this is give you access to what we call the May course, which is Managing the Academic Enterprise, which is the planning framework that I've just spoken to. We typically offer this to anybody to enroll in it. So typically it consists of several different schools, universities, community colleges attending the one class. What we want to do for the University of Southern Florida is give a private session to you. And what we're asking for is a commitment from you. It's just a couple of hours a week, one asynchronous class and one synchronous class. And what we're going to go through in this class is the giving you the ability to learn how to use and leverage this data and monitor, align, and predict, with giving you best practices to be able to really kind of optimize your academic operations. So we're going to share with you, and we're going to explore with you design strategies during this class. The classes are led by subject matter experts that have either come from an institution and now have joined Ad Astra and are a part of our team. One of the classes is led by a founder and CEO of our organization. So experts are really there to provide you the support work. So again, we're going to go through design strategies. We're going to go through how you can really articulate kind of the relationship between looking at just refining your scheduling, looking at curriculum design and pathways. We're going to dig into the degree velocity kind of theories and how your students are progressing. And really, again, back to the kind of the financial health and the infrastructure of your schedule and how that's impacting. We're also going to create some change management plans with you, again, in hopes that we can give you just successful tools on how to implement strategies and use the data that we're presenting. And hopefully just that allows you then to optimize your schedule. And a lot of strategy is built into this as well. So I will follow up with more information on this class. I've shared some initial information with Billy Joe, but we need to decide the timing of when you all want to take this class. Again, it's a 4-week session, 2 hours a week, partial, live, and then on your own work study. So that's something that Billy Joe, you and Christine and Luke and I, we can work on when the appropriate time is, you may want to dig into and have a couple of meetings with Christine before we dive into this class, just to allow you to kind of get your head around what this is. And then I think it'll give you some opportunity to be a little bit more interactive with our instructors with questions if you've had a little bit of a glimpse into what Monitor and Line and Predict is, and how you potentially think that you're going to be partnering with us to utilize the data.
Yeah, and I hope this doesn't all throw a clink in your willingness, guys, to participate, because after I saw this that Stacy shared with me, I thought this is really going to be something that's going to be really helpful for us to spend a little time up front in order to facilitate, hopefully moving from that longer review to the 90-second review that Christine alluded to. So is that, can we begin to have that conversation, Christine, when we have our next meeting about trying to set up a plan of when we might start doing that, and then the timing piece? I know the folks on this call are really busy folks, and I recognize that this is a time commitment we're asking for you to participate in, but maybe we can have that discussion, what works best for the majority, at least going forward.
Absolutely. And I've actually started drafting an email to you, Billy Joe. One of the pieces is I want to get you and I and Lisa Hunter on a phone together. She really helps facilitate and really manage that MAE, or Managing the Academic Enterprise course. And we're going to make sure that we can design that to be the most beneficial for your team. And that will include timing. But yeah, we can set up our regular meetings and start thinking about what goals and strategies we want to accomplish, because I think that might help drive a little bit of the content so that we can, kill two birds with one stone with that.
Perfect. Thanks.
You bet. Anything else, Stacy?
Sorry, I was on mute. The phrase of 2020. No, no, I'm good. I just appreciate your time today, and I look forward to being a part of this journey with you, and it being a successful one.
Perfect. Well, guys, as per usual, I lied. I went almost the full 90 minutes, and I know it's a long time to be sitting on a Zoom conference and just listening to what it is that we're sharing with you. Certainly feel free to reach out to me. I think you guys all probably have my email address. Billy Joe can also put you in contact with me. She's an excellent resource, and it has really led the charge with this, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with your team. So Billy Joe, I will send out some follow-up with some times. So I'll coordinate that with you. So you'll get those by the end of today, as well as the call recording from today. I'll let you distribute that as appropriate. And other than that, the next plan for the rest of the group will be, we will plan on talking to you on our first call of 2021 together.
So I have one more question for the group, or maybe Christine. Are we sure that everyone on this call has access and knows how to log in?
Excellent question. Chances are, knowing how to log in, I can certainly send a quick refresher on that. Okay. I will go through and look at the list. I'm not sure about Kathy or Brett. I think everybody else those are the has access. Two. I know Catherine Mund does, and Aaron. Michelle Jenkins, I believe, does as well. Let's look really quick. Lisa probably does. Lisa does.
I do.
Michelle King,
Irvin, and Jenkins and King. Yep, we've got. I'm sorry, Melissa Irvin. I'm sorry, Michelle Jenkins and Michelle King. They do. Okay. So it looks like maybe just Brett and Kathy. No, actually, Brett does. Oh, good. Brett may not know that, so we. No, that's okay. Yeah. I can send over instructions again. I may have done that on his behalf a while ago. So.
This is Kathy. Do you know if anyone in St. Pete has access?
I don't think so, Kathy, because this has been a Tampa initiative. We have just now in the last, Christine brought in the other, we've had them there, but we haven't actually used the other campuses in the analysis. So I don't believe there's anybody on your campus unless Lynn does, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you're the first.
Okay.
And what is Lynn's last name?
I would say Lynn Lynch.
Oh, nope, we do not have that in here. I
Okay,
have a
so
different Lynn.
Kathy, I think what we want to do is if there are other people on your campuses, Brett or Kathy, who need access, we're going to keep this group as the steering group. But we certainly want to extend access to other folks, but then you're going to kind of have to train them. I mean, we can certainly give them this video, which is kind of how we've done things in the past, and we're willing to expand the access. However, you know, in an effort to get this more adopted and used more broadly, then we're willing to give whoever has access or whoever you feel needs access. So, and
Okay.
Brett, that applies to your folks too. I think we have a really, Christine, I think there's over 100 private people have access, and they're on the Tampa campus. So, and that list has been cultivated as Christine's been here and we've had trainings and things like that, but we haven't had the other campuses in. So whoever you, Christine, you want them to send that directly to you to get them set up?
Sure.
I know I had access in the old thing to do that, but
yeah, and I think you probably have, it's a little bit, yeah, you have admin access here, but I will tell you, so Kathy, you'll know this, and I'll send this in the directions, because the way that when I create access, it sends a code to you, but that code is temporary. It doesn't last very long. And since I don't want you sitting at your computer waiting for me to send that code and us having to coordinate, I always say ignore that first code that gets sent to you and then just follow the instructions that I'm going to send you. So that way you could just reset your password at the time that is most convenient for you and not the time that it's most convenient for me, because sometimes that gets done at 10 o'clock in the evening as I'm making sure everything gets updated. So this way it'll be more convenient for you, but I'll put that as a reminder.
Okay, thank you.
all right, folks, does anybody else before we sign off today have any questions, comments for the group? Trying to watch hands if anybody. I don't see anything. Again, Christine, Stacy, Luke, thank you all for your time. I think the more I see this, the more comfortable I'm getting with understanding how to use it. So I think as folks get in and dig around, this is so much improved from an end user perspective. I think hopefully this will increase our, Lisa's right, vast improvements. So yeah, Lisa, in everybody's spare time.
Right? I'm always available. So you guys can shoot me a text or an email. If you said, oh, Christine, you showed me something and now I forgot where it's at, feel free to reach out. I'm certainly here to help.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you all at Astra folks. And please have a good weekend. I will say go Chiefs. And I guess I'll say go Bucks as well, even though I'm not a big Bucks fan anymore. But everybody, please have a good weekend, and we'll get together and set up some future meetings here in the not too distant future.
Perfect. Sounds great. Everybody take care and have a great weekend. We'll all talk soon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.